That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A few quick reminders before we get started. If you want to come to Hawaii on the Big Island in 2026, we are hosting our next conference there. It's a conference/retreat. We're going to be out in the ocean with the dolphins and whales, some sacred sites. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a small lineup. It's going to be like a conference/retreat. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. So if you're interested in joining us, it's April 20th through the 24th next year. And all the information is at journeytotruth.online. That link is below. And if you're in the Sedona area, August 29th and 30th, I'll be speaking at Devara Thunderbeats Conference, The Cosmic Awakening. If you're in the area, come hang out. You can go to her website, thunderbeats.com or something. I'll put the link below and grab a ticket. Hope to see you there. But today's guest, I'm very excited about. So his name is Joseph. He's the host of the Ancient Enigma Files. He had me on his show very recently about my book. And after the show, he sent me his story. So I knew nothing about him prior to the show, to the recording, the interview. And I was kind of blown away by his story. I didn't know that he was a Navy veteran, and he has this wild testimony about something that happened to him while he was stationed in Japan. And we'll let him tell that story because it's a very long story and it needs to be told in full, thoroughly. So we're going to turn it over to him and let him do that. But I found it very fascinating. A lot of it kind of correlates with what I've experienced as far as shadow people go and some of the sleep paralysis attacks and stuff. But yours is a little more interesting, in my opinion, because it was happening to the military base. So, welcome to the show. First off, Joseph, how you doing?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go to Hawaii.
Hey,
So yeah,
You should
put me in, coach. Yeah, I'm in.
go.
I'll be there.
all
Yeah,
right,
so
come on
Good.
over.
Awesome.
thanks,
Join us.
fellas. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for inviting me on my show. Yeah, I'll sit down here. I'm glad to come on and tell this story here. The fun fact is that until you, Tyler, I had no one else. I've only known two other people to experience what I experienced with, and it happened at the exact same time that I was going through my stuff. And I'll get into that as we get into it here, and as we roll with it, man. If you guys got any questions, just jump in. So I need to preference something here, something real quick as when I go in. So I had a TSSCI clearance, right? And I'm putting that out here in the front. When you get a TSSCI clearance, you sign a non-disclosure, right? When you get it, that's binding for life to never make a movie or never write a book about what happened in your military stuff. But the way I tell this story, I can circumvent those restrictions on there because I won't go into anything mission specific that we were doing, and where I was stationed is not classified, right? And so anybody, and again, so the reason why I started this, there's two reasons why I started this show. I actually created that guy back there, his name is Professor Augustus. During COVID, I created him just to be a troll and kind of do trolly things, right? So one of my videos went viral about how, there's no way the Egyptians built the pyramid. So that's where the story came to, right? But then it kind of evolved into this thing. And this story I'm about to tell, I didn't tell this story for one whole year on my channel. In fact, when I sent the this is the 52nd episode. I did one episode a week. I sent it to Tyler to take a look at and go into it because I didn't want to come out and tell this story without, building some type of street cred. But the story I'm about to tell you guys is I've never kept it secret. Never. I've never kept it secret. I was told to shut up, but I never kept it secret even when it was going on. So
Yeah.
now
So
that we had that, also, if you got any questions or if you want to challenge me, I'm
right.
people who watch this, ask it in the comments. My story is legitimate, 100%, right? I'm going to leave a few names out of people because I don't have their permission to do their names. But if they see this, they'll know exactly who they are. So,
Right. Really quick. So I just want to, first of all, I find it interesting that you didn't come out leading with your story. So you
yeah,
wanted to start the show first and the podcast and all that stuff. And then you came out later. But also, secondly, people send us videos all the time to watch. And to be honest, we don't get to all of them, or it's impossible. But
Yeah,
I
I know.
will say, I just want to say this for anyone listening, like I got a very, very strong hit to listen to the episode you sent me,
Mhm.
and I took the time to do it, and I'm so glad I did because it is an incredible story. So I'll just say that, and I'll turn it over to you and let you get going with it. And you joined the Navy at 17, I believe that's when.
Yeah, so I'm looking back now on my life now, I've realized that I've had a fairly strange life, right? Like, so some people say, "Wow, that life is amazing." I'm thinking like, "No, you didn't have to live it." Like, it's good, cool looking on the inside, right? But like some of the things that I went through, we'll get into it here as we go. So I actually was born in this place called Johnson City, Tennessee, Upper East Tennessee, right on the Virginia North Carolina border, smack dab in the Appalachian Mountain Range, smack dab right in the middle, right? And I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I never fit in there. I never felt like I was there, man. I just something about it, man. And so looking back on it now, the Appalachian Mountain Range has a lot of old energy. It's the oldest mountain range on the planet. It's like it was there when Pangea was formed. I didn't find that out till later in my life, right? But there's a lot of fiduciary that goes on up there. So I wanted out of there as fast as possible, right? So I joined the military when I was 17 years old. And I had to get a waiver. I had to get a waiver to join the military to go in at that young. So I signed a waiver. I left. I literally graduated high school and I left like 10 days later. I was in boot camp. I was gone. I took off, right? I had no idea what I had signed up for. I had no idea I went to the recruiter. I took these tests. They signed me up and I was gone. I was supposed to actually join the army, but when the army recruiter called my aunt, he pissed her off, right? So she refused to let me join the army. So I went into the Navy. It's actually a fun story, right? I was in boot camp, and what it was is what I had signed up for, unbeknownst to me, was I had signed up for the Navy intelligence program. I was a cryptologist. I was in right into it. Right, I graduated boot camp, went straight to uh, Pensacola, Florida, where Naval Technical Training Center. I like to drop the receipts along the way so people can hear what I'm saying, but I got to keep it. Just like I told you guys at the beginning, Pensacola, Florida, is where I was trained at. If you know anything about Pensacola, Florida, then you know a lot about the cryptology community up there, the spook community, right? My first duty station they sent me to. During that time, I was only 17. There wasn't much background to check. My clearance came in, no problem. TSSCI, which stands for top secret, sensitive compartmented information / go. Boom. Airplane, across the Pacific. First duty station I landed at was this place called Kamasaya, Japan. Naval Security Group activities. You can look this up on the internet. My name is Joseph McKinney. You can go look it up. My duty stations are not classified. There's websites you can find. So my first duty station was Naval Security Group activities, Kamasaya, Japan. Now, I had never been on an airplane that long in my entire life. I flew from the East Coast, literally from the East Coast, and it was a full military charter. That means you stopped along the way and you picked people up. So you stopped here, you stopped there, you stopped there. We stopped in Alaska, picked up some people, and then we landed in Japan. I landed in this airport in Japan, Air Force Base called Misawa, right? It was a Misawa Air Force Base, which was about an hour, 15 minutes, hour, 30 minutes north of where Kamasaya was. No one knew on the flight what Kamasaya was. No one knew what it was. They're like, oh, we're going here, we're going there, we're going here. And when we land there in the airport, I see in the Navy, they'll have a sponsor that picks you up. Normal, all military people do. When you go somewhere new, you just don't show up, man. There'll be somebody to get you, bring you on base or whatever. Unless you're like 15 or 20 years in, man, and you don't need somebody to do that, right? But everybody had these little cards on, and they were holding up their names, and I was just standing there. I'm a kid. By this time, I had turned 18. Though I turned 18, you know, in A school, right? I had turned 18. I see everybody getting picked up, getting picked up. I'm standing there. I'm standing there. I'm standing there, and everybody was in uniform. So was I, and they all left. And about 5 minutes after they cleared out, these two guys walk up to me, and they're like, "Hey, look, go in the bathroom, take that S off, get in your bag, put on some normal clothes, and come out." And I'm like, okay. And so I was like, I thought that was weird. But again, I'm a kid, right? Go in the bathroom, I change, we leave, we get in there. And the hour, 15-minute ride that we have down, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did he not say something along the lines of like, "You're not in that type of Navy anymore"?
Yes, exactly what he said to me. He says, you're not in that Navy anymore. That's what he said to me. Exactly his exact words are that you're not in that Navy anymore, right? And I'm like, okay. My haircut at the time was exactly like this. It was exactly like this, right? So again, I go in these guys, I know their names, man. There's two guys that picked me up, man. Really nice guys, man. They were in their 30s though. And I like again, they were, literally almost double my age, right? I went in there, changed my stuff, put on some clothes. They it wasn't a military van. It was just their own personal you can actually get cars in Japan fairly cheap, like older cars, right? So they had like one this guy just drove his personal vehicle. We got in the back. We started driving down. They started giving me when you get to a command, you have the rules, right? But then you have how it really goes down, right? So the senior guys, you'll have the stiff guys tell you like, hey, this X, Y, and Z. But then it's like, hey, man, this is how it really is, right? So as we were going down, they actually stopped at a 7-Eleven, man. They got me a sandwich because they'd been on a long flight, and we were just cruising down the road. So they were telling me, "Hey, look, man, you're a spook. You're this, that, and the." I didn't know what a spook meant. I didn't know what any of that meant, right? I literally, man, literally, and so the fun fact, like when I was going through A school, going through it, nobody knew what we were going to do. We were trained to do something, but none of us knew where we were going to do these things, right? Like they had linguists there, they had guys that were breaking codes there, they had cryptologists there. So none of us knew, like I said, don't think that this is like some Jason Bourne story. There was like 40 of us, right? 50 of us, right? Like, and we just get shipped off to basically to the fleet, right? They're like, "Hey, look, man, X, Y, and Z, we're doing this. This is what you do now. This is what you get into. Again, I got to skirt my lines here. This is what you do. This is what we're going to do here. It's real chill. You're officially the youngest guy at this command, right? And that comes with responsibilities, right? During we'll have the Navy birthday. You'll have to be up there and you'll be with the oldest guy. You got to cut a cake, this, that, and the other. Just talking, right? Just talking. And they were telling me about girls. This was just three guys in the truck talking, right? Military guys, right? So then we get to the base, right? No wonder no one knew where this base was because this base was literally in the middle of like, and again, anybody that's ever been there, I challenge you, you had to go down a road that was probably took you like 45 seconds to get down. There is no signs. It's surrounded by rice fields, period. Just rice paddies, right? We go down there, go on the base. They take me in there. They check me in my room. They're like, hey, look, man, I got to be careful. I landed there. And they're like, it was on a weekend. And they were like, hey, look, man, 0800 Monday, we'll be here to get you. Be dressed, right? In uniform, though. They said, put your uniform on. We'll be here to get you. I'm like, all right. They checked me into the barracks. I was in room 111. Now, this is important what I'm about to tell you here. The barracks was a atypical Navy L-shaped barracks. It was this way and then this way, right? That was it. Just imagine a 90-degree angle, and that was it. You walk into the front door there. My room was 111, 111. It was the first room on the right when you came in, and it split. So you go down this hallway, you would go down this hallway, right? And then if you got down to the bottom of this hallway, there was the office there where you checked in, and then there was another long hallway right there, right? The same thing. And there was 2 floors. So just imagine that, right? So I checked me into the room that I was in, room 111. It was winter when I was there, right? My roommates weren't there. There was 2 guys that I was supposed to be in there with. They weren't there, right? I'm exhausted. I've never had jet lag before. I never did anything before in my life, right? So there was this little ratty bed with a mattress that was about this thick, and it was this little blue mattress. I threw on the sheets they gave me and this ugly gray, military issue blanket, right? And I went to sleep. Now my wall with the bed I was in, if you came in through the front door, this plays into the story. If you came into the front door, there was 3 what we called coffin lockers. 1, 2, 3, and then there was across from the coffin lockers, there was the shower and the bathroom, a little door you'd go in there. There was a sink. And right after that sink, there was the wall. That was where my bed was at, right? So they weren't there. I went in there. I went to sleep. I just literally, I just crashed out, man. I just hit, and I was probably asleep. I'd never been that tired in my life, man. I was in information overload, like all this stuff. This is not what I expected at all. You know what I mean? So I didn't even unpack my bag, bro. I just took my sea bag and I just laid it there on the floor. This big green duffel bags. I just laid it there on the floor, rolled over and went to sleep. I don't know how long I was asleep, right? And if anybody's ever been in Japan during the winter, the sun doesn't shine a lot in the winter over there. It's a lot of overcast, a lot of, cloudiness, right? So you kind of have that gray silhouettes always kind of going on. And some at some point during my sleep, I woke up and something happened. It was kind of like in slow motion. I was facing the wall and I rolled over, and all military barracks back then, they still do, you have these mini fridges. These fridges are only about 4 feet tall. If anybody's ever been in the military before, you know exactly what these refrigerators are, man. Not big enough to put any food in, but you could stack a bunch of beer in there or whatever. But it's literally just a 4 foot tall refrigerator. And I look over by the refrigerator, and there is this shadow just standing there right next to it. And the shadow is only about 5 feet tall. The reason why I know that is because it's only slightly taller than the refrigerator, right? I look at it, I stare at it for a second, I feel nothing. And literally, I roll back over and I go to sleep, right? I just go back to sleep. And life just continues, man. My roommates show up later. Get out of bed, boy. You welcome to Japan. We go out. They show me what a karaoke bar is. We go out and I just start doing military things, right? Single bachelor military life things, right? And in the military, when I was there, when you get to a command, you don't go into your work right away. They put you on what we called it 50 department. I don't know why they called it 50, man, but you're waiting for your clearance paperwork to come through to get there, right? So you cut the grass, you do whatever, man. You show up, you wash the admiral's car, you just do whatever, man. The captain's car. This base only had about this base only had about 200 people on it. That's it, man. 200 people, right? So life just goes on, right? 6 months pass. I'm in my section. I'm on section 2. We were known as the rowdy section. I was on section 2. They had told me, stop cutting your hair so short, let your hair grow out, this, that, and the other. I was on a watch schedule called a 2-2-96, which basically we worked 2 12-hour shifts and we had a day and a half off, and we worked 2 mid watches and we had 4 days off, right? It was just that was the watch on. Life had synced in. I became friends with all these guys. We had, partying, hanging out, doing whatever. I got a in my there were about 15 guys on my section, right? And we we had jobs that were broken up. I can't really go into what they were, but they were just broken up, right? Into what we did. But we were in a skiff. I don't know if are you familiar with what a
Yeah.
skiff is?
Mhm.
So we had a skiff, but this
Yep.
skiff was buried into the side of a hill. It was buried into it, right? And so what I had found out is that Camisea used to be an old Japanese torpedo factory during World War II. And again, if anybody wants to check my credibility, north of Camisea was this place called Atsugi Air Force Base. Northwest of it was this place called Camp Zama, which was an army base, right? They used to manufacture the planes during World War II at Atsugi Air Force Base, move them underground to Camisea, put torpedoes on, and then move them down to Yokosuka Naval Forces down there, put them on aircraft carriers and send them off. During World War II, after we bombed this place to death, we just went in and excavated and kept it. So you could be walking inside this little, I won't call it a mountain, it's more like a big hill, right? You could be walking in there and you would hear hollow spots in the floor. That's just because there's tunnels under there, right? And all kinds of stuff. 6 months had passed. And so, like I said, man, and I'm synced in with these guys, man. These are my boys. We're hanging out. It was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of people like to think that in the military, man, you're all the time doing like this high speed, stuff. Like we're all like these operators. We're not, man. There's a lot of fatigue going on there, man. We're wrestling. We're talking about girls. We're playing cards. We're doing whatever, man. And, we're just doing all kinds of stuff. So during one of these, goof off sections, I think the watch actually fell on like a Saturday. Like Fridays and Saturdays were terrible for us because we knew we would call them day walkers. No day walkers, which was the day workers, were coming in, right? So the shift guys, man, we used to just be rowdy all the time. We didn't have to worry about, there was a big cipher lock that you had to hit to move this door. And then when it popped, we go pop. And when it popped, everybody would act like they're busy, right? So we wouldn't have to worry about anything popping. So these guys were in there cutting up, right? And there was this guy in there with him, right? Now, at this time, I was in a different part of the skiff, and the skiff was fairly big. Imagine the size of a mall food court, and that was the size of this skiff. It was pretty huge, right? We had walls to block things off, but it was pretty big, right? So I was at the back end, and I came walking up. And the reason why I was at the back end was is I was still a junior guy. I was literally back there probably cleaning a toilet. No lie, man. Like I was back there doing something like that, right? Because any type of, we had to keep it clean or buff the floors or do any mopping, right? It was on me. No other junior guys had came there yet, right? So it was just that was just my job, right? They weren't bad to me or anything like that. They would just laugh. We used to do this thing called flip, right? Like you put your hand over your arm where you kept your rank, right? And the lowest guy would go. I didn't have anything there, right? So I always lost, right? So they used to think it was hilarious to like slap their arms, right? So I came walking in. There's this guy in there with them. They're giving this guy the blues, man. I'm talking about hardcore, man, laying into this dude, man. And they kept saying his name. He's a really good dude, man. They kept saying his name, like, "Hey, tell us one of your spooky stories, man. Tell us about your shadow buddies, right?" Is what they were telling him, right? And he was like, I'll keep it PG, PG-13, but like there was colorful words mixed in back and forth there, right? And he was just like, "Hey, you know what, man? You guys don't know. You guys think I'm crazy, man. This, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah." So he walked out and he went to the back, and I was like, "Yo, man, what was that about?" He's like, "Oh, man, Izzy hasn't told you about his buddy." And I'm like, "Nah, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, Izzy got a shadow friend who follows him around and does stuff like that, right?" And these guys were cracking up, right? And I was thinking to myself, like, I saw a shadow. I didn't say it though, right? I didn't say it in front of these guys, right? Because they were ruthless, right? And so I was like, "All right, man." So after about 45 minutes, man, I left again. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I went back to the skiff, man. I started talking to this guy. I was like, "Hey, man, what are you talking? Like, I saw some things, right?" He's like, "Come on, man, don't try to be funny." I'm like, "No, like seriously." And I told him exactly what had happened. Now this cat's room was 107. And so I was on 111, which was the odd side, and my mirror right across the way was 110. So it was 111, 109, 107, right? Like he was literally just one room down from me, right? And I said, "Hey man, look, I had encountered, this weird thing." And he was like, "Yeah, man." And he started telling me these things, right? He was like, this was that, this was that, this was that. And I was like, "Oh man." I was like, "Man, that's kind of wild, right?" Didn't think anything about it. Nothing. Whatever, man. Like, hey man, he saw it. I saw it. At this time, man, nothing else had happened to me, right? And I don't know if it was the conversation I had with him. I don't know what happened was, but in Japan, they don't have hurricanes. They have these forget typhoons, right? They just
Yeah.
go the opposite direction, right? And one of those had showed up, man, because it's 6 months later. It was July, dead in the middle of like summertime or August or whatever, man, and it was it, right? So I was in, usually we just hunker down. There's no place for us to evacuate. There's no place to go. We just hunker down, right? So I was in the room again, and this is where things like just really, really like picked up, right? I was in the room again. By this time, one of the other roommates had left, and me and the other guy, we had opened up the floor plan, right? Like his bed was over here, my bed was over here. There's only two of us in there, man. Place was wide open, but the fridge was in the same spot, right? So over by the corner, right by the coffin lockers. But my bed I had moved to the opposite side of the wall, right? I was laying there again, off of mid watch. Typhoon had hit. I was laying there. But this time something different happened to me, right? I had this feeling, but the same time I had this feeling, I heard these noises, like this strangeness, right? The only way that I can describe it, I'll do it for you. It's kind of funny, but like I'll make that noise for you. But it sounded like this. Sound like that. It just sounded like that. It sounded like 50 people whispering at the exact same time, right? Is what it sounded like. I roll over again, and there's that shadow is there. But this time, this is really weird. This time, he's like 2 steps away from the refrigerator where he was before. He was not where he was before, but he was 2 steps forward. And for the first time, it scared me, right? I don't know why. I don't know. The first time it didn't scare me. First time I didn't hear anything. But the second time I saw him, it scared me. And again, I wasn't in a sleep paralysis. I had rolled over. I had looked, right? I had saw it, right? But again, right back to sleep. The moment my head hit the pillow, I jumped up, I'm looking around, I'm like, "Oh my god, man, that my heart was freaking pounding," right? And I'm like, "Man, all right, man, that scared the crap out of me," right? Like, I didn't know what that was. So then so, again, it just is what it is, man. It was what it was. I didn't think anything of it, man. Like something I was at this point in time too, boys, I was actually trying to convince myself I'm just tired. I'm literally both times I saw it, man, I was exhausted. Both times. You know, boys, I'm just tired, man. And you know what it is, man? It's like I just talked to this guy. It's really hard for his name not to come out, man. I really just talked to him, like literally, like a week ago. I just spoke to him, man, and it's just in my head, man. It's just in my head, right? So then, you know, again, life goes on. 1 month later, again, they're on him. Like 2 weeks later, they're on him at work, right? And he's like defending himself. He's like, he saw it too. He threw my name out there, right? And they all were like, "Oh, John." So they were like coming at me like, "Oh, McKinney, no, you didn't." I'm like, "Yo, man," I said, "Look, man, I don't know what it is, man." But I said, and I just told him that story. I said, "Literally, I just saw it again like 2 weeks ago." And again, man, we were laughing or whatever, right? This right here is when things really started to like go south. I call it going south, man. Like, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to like to use the term escalate or whatever, but that's just how it is, man. The frequency started to increase, right? And I was dating this girl at the time, man, in Japan. She was a Japanese girl, and Japanese. A lot of Japanese are they're not Buddhists. They're Shintos. They're Shinto, right? They pray to spirits or whatever, man. So she used to be in there, man, and she would tell me these weird things like, "Hey, look, something's pulling my hair at night. Something's doing this. Something's doing that," right? And before I had saw it the second time, I didn't think anything of it, right? Like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, you know, we've been drinking, you know, kamikazes all night. Who knows? Who knows? Whatever. I didn't think nothing of it. After that second time, stranger things started to happen. I would hear the locks or padlocks on the coffin lockers would swing. All three of them would start swinging at the same time, man. And it would just make this like wood rubbing sound, right? And again, I just thought that was weird. I'm like, man, all right, what is that, man? Maybe, you know, my roommate left, maybe he just ran his hand down there or did whatever, but I started hearing it more and more, and then again, man, this time there was no, you know, typhoon. I wasn't tired. It was literally 1 o'clock in the morning. I was by myself. I was laying there. I started hearing that noise again. I looked up and that joker is at the foot of my bed. He's standing at the foot of my bed, right? Again, he's clearly moved about 8 feet from where I'd saw him at, you know, earlier in the year. And he was there again. He was there again. He was so close to me that I don't even know if I put this in my first story, but he looked like a black and white TV, kind of like if that makes any sense what I'm talking about, right? He just looked like that. Like I don't want to use the term vibrating because it wasn't that way, but he just looked like it was pitch black, right?
Like TV static?
Yeah,
Like
like
the
that, but
static?
it was black, right? And it was completely black, right?
Right.
And freaking man, that freaked me out, man. Like my heart was pounding. And this time was the first time in my whole entire life I'd ever experienced sleep paralysis, right? I could not freaking move, right? I could not move, man. And I was just like every single muscle in my body was just like I was gritting my teeth so hard that when I snapped out of it, I could feel like the tension in my things. My eyes closed, I jumped up, he was gone. This scared me so bad, I got the F up. I got out of my bed, I said, I went in the hallway. All of my buddies, most of my buddies lived at the, you know, if I went out of my room, went all the way down. They lived in all the way at the bottom down there in 101 and 102, right? And I mean, I booked it down to the end of that hallway, right? And I went in there and I knocked on their doors. They were in there. They were actually in there playing a. They were playing. They had. They were playing a daggone Street Fighter video game tournament. They were sitting there playing, right? They were just there playing, right?
Nice.
And I was like, "Hey, man, you guys ain't gonna believe this, man. That's not uncommon, by the way, to do nerdy stuff. But they're beer, you know, bonging beers or whatever stuff like that. And I'm like, you guys ain't gonna believe this, man. I just saw this thing, and they're like, what, bro? And I'm like, yeah, man, like this freaking thing. I was like, yo, he ain't lying. I said, there's something's going on here, right? And again, to pause the story, I was never after that point. I was never quiet about this. I was never. I didn't care what they said. I'm like, yo, man, that freaking there's a demon in my room. It's literally what I said to them. There's a freaking demon in there, right? And they're like, and they were laughing, right? And they were, you know, there were girls in there with them as well. And I was like, and they're like, look, bro, just crash on the couch, man. I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna crash. I just crashed out right there. And then I had told I can't remember if I had told my girlfriend about this as well, and she was like, "Hey, look," she went to, like, one of her Shinto priests or whatever, he gave her some freaking incense to burn, some things to say in Japanese or whatever. Because I was convinced it was a dead Japanese soldier, to be honest with you. I thought we had killed these people before, we just built these barracks right on top of this base, there must be bodies everywhere. So I was convinced that it was, something like that, right? So she went and got these, prayers or whatever to burn this incense and to, calm down this spirit. She came back, she did it. Wrong, wrong. Whatever that was pissed this thing off like you have no freaking idea, right? Like it from that point on, man, the very next thing that happened, right, is that I had to take a trip to Seoul, Korea, right? And when I had went to Seoul, Korea, if you've ever been there before, you can get anything on the planet made in Seoul, Korea. Anything, right? They have these big outdoor, kiosk or whatever, and you can buy silk there real cheap. So I bought my girlfriend just a pair of silk pajamas, right? And this wasn't nothing swanky. This wasn't nothing erotic. It was a button-up shirt and some shorts. It was just like this plain silk pink pajamas, right? And she kept them there, and when she would come over, she would sleep in these pajamas, right? I'd had them there for about, like, 6 weeks, right? And after she burned that incense, like, a night, maybe 2 or 3 nights later, I was in there again, right? And I was asleep. Something felt I don't wanna say that there's like there was something weird in the air, but I just felt tired. I don't know why. I was like, "You know what, man? Like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna lay down, man." Earlier than normal, like around, I would go to bed around 11 or 12, like around like 8 or 9 o'clock. I just thought I was tired, right? I'm like, "Alright, man, I'm just gonna lay down," right? I laid down into my bed. I don't know how long I was asleep. I don't know freaking, you know, the time limit of it. When I woke up, I was facing away from the wall, and right there at my face was this thing's face. Right there, right? And this is the craziest thing. He was so close, and again, the sound, yes, 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 the sound. It was so loud this time. I could see its little white eyes, and it was freaking wearing her pink pajamas. No lie, right? And the thing did this freaking, it's the only way I can describe it, man, is that it it laughed at me. It made like this, I didn't verbally hear it make any noise. I just heard like in a nonverbal type communication. It laughed at me, and then it did this crazy freaking like backbend crab thing and shot right across the room over there to where the refrigerator was, right? So I am freaking terrified. My heart is pounding again, sleep paralysis again. Can't freaking move, can't do anything right. I break down, I jump out, boom. But this time, man, I am so terrified at what just happened. I can't move. I can move, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not locked down, but I'm like freaking shocked, right? And I kind of pull myself up. I didn't know, that was the most scared at that time right there. That was the scaredest I've ever been in my entire life, was that time right there, right? And I just sit up in bed and I look across the room, and those pajamas are laying by the refrigerator, right? They're just laying there. And again, I don't have sleep paralysis. I can move, but my heart is pounding so hard that I can hear it. I can hear it in my ears. This boom, boom, boom. And I'm sweating. I got this cold fear sweat that just came over me, right? I calmly get up. I got this calmly get up, man. I walk over there. I think I'm in some type of, looking back, man, I must have been some type of like state of shock or whatever. I pick up those pajamas, man. I freaking, lay them on the freaking bed, and I just walk out of my room. I just walk out of my room. I walk down to my buddy's room again. I knock on the door, and I go in there and sit down, and I'm just like, you ain't gonna believe this, man. Right. And so then I'm saying to myself, right, I'm telling somebody. I'm not living this way. Literally, this is what I said, man. I am not freaking, I am not, there's a demon in my room. I don't know what it is, man, but I know that I'm not equipped to handle it. Everybody on my team knows this. Everybody, right? I'm going to go tell the captain. And there was this one guy, man, he pulled me to the side, man. He's still a good buddy of mine, man. He pulled me to the side, man. He's like, "Hey, look, bro, you need to shut your mouth," is what he said to me. He's like, "You need to stop talking. He said, look, man, you're going to lose your," he says, "a spook without a clearance, we're useless, bro. They're going to think you're crazy. They're going to go in there. They're going to think you're having some type of mental breakdown. They're going to drug test you," which I wasn't on anything, right? You're going to drug test you, and they're gonna evaluate you for like 6 months to a year. You're gonna be cutting the grass out here for 6 months for a year. You're gonna be a man on an island, bro. You'll be useless, man. You need to shut your mouth, right? And I was like, man, all right. So I didn't go tell any officers in my chain of command, but all the senior enlisted guys around me, they knew my story, right? They knew it. And they knew the other guy, right? So, they would joke at us like, "Yo, man, you guys are taking the spook thing, a little bit too serious, right? Back and forth, right?" But I didn't tell anybody, right? So then it had been about a year and a half, almost 2 years that this had been so a year and a half this went on, right? About 4 weeks after the pajama thing happened in there, I was in there again, went to sleep by myself. Same thing happened. Middle of the night, I woke up, but this time I woke up, man, there were a dozen of these things in my room, and they were all different shapes and sizes. One looked like a spider, a big spider. One of them looked like a freaking goblin with just shadow outlines, no facial features, right? And that was sitting on the edge of my bed. One was tall, one was short, just all range of them right there. And they were making that freaking ungodly noise again. Just again, do it right again. Freak out, jump up, whatever. I'm like, at this time, man, I'm like, at this time, I actually am starting to question my own sanity, right? But if it hadn't have been for the other guy, and there's this one other guy, man, that was happening to him as well. But I don't want to. He and I aren't close enough for me to like, invoke him or whatever, man. But it was happening to another guy as well, right? And so I said to myself, like, if it wasn't for them, then maybe I am freaking losing my mind here. I didn't freaking know what it was, right? So I started staying less and less in my room, right? I would stay with my girlfriend's house out in we call it the economy, man. I stay out in the economy. I would crash with a roommate. If my roommate was there, I would stay there. I'll take that back. I started stop staying there by myself. If there wasn't anybody else in that room with me, I wasn't staying there, right? Because I thought that would protect me. Well, I was wrong, because literally about again, the frequency of it was every 4 to 6 weeks, something weird would happen, right? Time had went by again. This is about a year and a half, maybe 18 months into my 2-year tour. I got extended for 1 year. So I'm doing 3 years on this base, right? So I was about 18 months into it. I had a solid 14 months left to go on this tour. I didn't want to leave Japan. Japan was amazing, right? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we had just finished up a mid watch. Everybody goes to bed about 9 o'clock. We're gonna sleep till 1 or 2, hit the gym, hang out, and we're gonna go party the next night, right? We don't want to waste our time, right? So, get about 4 hours of sleep. I was in my room, I was sleeping. My roommate was in there, but he was actually awake. It was broad daylight. The blinds were open and everything, right? And I can't breathe. I can't breathe, right? And so during, you know, I remember I was laying on my back, I can't breathe, I roll over to my side, I could breathe for a second, and then something rolls me back over, and I wake up, and this thing was straddling me. It was sitting on my waist, and it had its hands were inside my chest, up to its wrist. All I could see was its wrists were inside my chest, and I can't breathe. I have sleep paralysis, right? I'm laying there, my eyes are wide open. It's broad daylight. It's broad daylight, right? I'm laying there, freaking, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. I'm just sitting there rolling in my mind. Blink my eyes for a second, I snap out of it, and I just take this big gasp of air. I took a gasp of air so strong that my roommate, who was actually, sitting on the couch over there, he looked over and like, "Yo, man, are you all right?" And I'm like, "Nah, man, I just freaking craziest thing happened to me, right? I can't freaking breathe." I didn't tell him that freaking shadow thing was, trying to, pull my lungs out of my chest or anything. I didn't say anything, right? It just didn't come to me, right? So I was like, "Man," I was like, "All right, man." Then freaking, I thought to myself, man, like, You gotta be joking me. You gotta be kidding me here, man. I can't believe that just happened. And again, these guys have heard these stories 100 times, man. I don't even tell them anymore, right? This is going on, right? Again, I was terrified. Terrified, terrified, terrified. A month later, we're having a party. We're doing something. I went back to my room to get some ice, right? We're in somebody else's room, down the hallway. Same level. We barely left. We call it our block. We barely left our block from 101 to 111. That's where section 2 partied, right? And everybody else did their things over there. In fact, we used to play this game, don't come down there uninvited, or we'll pour water on you. Just military stuff, right? So I went down to my room to get some ice. And I went into my room to get some ice. And I came out of the room, and when I came out of the room, remember I told you, man, it was that long hallway, and there was a whole 'nother block down there, and that was where the office was to check in and out of the barracks, basically. But we had Coke machines down there as well. And standing by that Coke machine, when I walked up, this is the first time I ever saw it completely awake. It was standing there. It was standing next to the Coke machine right there, and I got this ice in my hand, and I'm looking at it, and it's probably 50 yards, I would say what it was. That's how far away it was. It was a long distance, right? Before it was from me. And it started running straight at me, right at me, right? And it freaked me out, man. I literally just broke left, ran as fast as I could, didn't even look back, man. And I dipped into the room, man. This room was packed, man. Guys, girls in there. Music was loud. And I just basically walked in there, man. The lights were kind of down. They had some lights going on. They were drinking Jägermeister, right? We just cut in there, man. They were doing Jaeger bombs, is what it was, right? I just went in there, man, and my heart was pounding, and my girlfriend was in there. She's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Nah, you ain't gonna believe this, man." I said, "But that freaking thing," I only told her, man, "That freaking thing, man, just, came down here, right?" And she just looked at me, man, and she just had this look on her, man, like, I don't know, man, she just had this look in her eyes, like, and she didn't say nothing about it. And I don't know if that was that look, or I don't know if it was that I just literally ran like a little bee. I'm 6 feet tall, probably some of the best shape of my life, right? I'm a spook. I'm in a special section of the Navy, and a shadow man just made me run for my life down a hallway, right? I felt, man, like I felt like a little girl, man. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like, and so something happened at that point with me. I don't know if it was the way she looked at me. I don't know if it was, man. I don't know if it was my friends. My friends were so sick of hearing this trash, man. I got pissed off, man. That's the first time this ever happened to me where I was like, you know what, man? Now I'm pissed, right? So now I'm like, so I, uh, but I'm pissed, but that fear is there. If that makes any sense, what I'm talking, like it's there, man. But now I'm pissed off, right? And so then, we partied, man. We had a good time, man. Nothing happened, but I went back to like for like a week. I started doing like this self reflection, right? And I happened when I would go into work, man. Instead of me going up to the other part of the skiff with those guys for a couple of days, man, I just hung out there by myself, man. And I started analyzing this thing, man. I was like, it hasn't killed me yet. I mean, it's kind of people watching this. I know what I might say is gonna be kind of odd, but like this is just my thought process. What I was going through. It hasn't killed me yet. I'm still alive. It makes that weird noise. It says the only time it's ever been able to get its hands on me was that one time. It's never touched me, right? I said, "You know what? And I've never, had any scratches or anything like that. It's never put its hands on me." And I thought to myself, like, "Yo, this thing is just, like it's like just effing with me." That's what the determination that came with me. It's like, why am I asked myself, why am I scared? Why am I scared? It's not a man, right? It's not a man. Why am I scared of this thing, right? So then over that, I was just doing this, analyzing myself, man. But the sleep paralysis, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what sleep paralysis was. I didn't no one ever had taught me about that. The other guys weren't experienced. They never told me they were experienced. I just knew I was frozen, right? Well, the one guy said, "Yeah, I can't move," but we didn't have a word for it, right? I said, "Man, that thing every time." I literally came to the conclusion, like if I could get my hands on it, right? Like I'll tune it up. I actually thought that, like if I could get my hands on it and we fought, like I will turn this thing into a mud puddle. That's literally what I was thinking to myself, right? I said, "Man, but how can I get over like this thing, right?" I didn't have any answers, right? And again, you know, days went by, weeks went by. Now we rolled back into, typhoon season, right? We rolled back into it. And I don't know why I did this, boys. We rolled back into typhoon season. But right before that too, I left this part out, man. In seeking my answers, I actually started going to the Bible. In seeking my answers, I was like, they had given me a pocket Bible that was about the size of this phone, right? And I was like, you know what? Like, okay, you know, I was baptized early, but like as a child, but like I was pretty wild. I was a wild dude, but it wasn't uncommon for wild dudes to be spooks. I don't know if they looked for that in our personalities. I don't know if the being outside the extra laws encouraged that behavior. But I was a wild guy, man. And so Jesus was not in my life. He wasn't there. But I was like, you know what, man, maybe this Bible can do something. I don't know. Maybe this can do whatever. Just like an infant mentality of it, right? So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I said, okay, so I said, I'm gonna come up with a plan, right? I said, what I'm gonna try to do is that every time, when I say this, I chuckle because it sounds just like a kid, plotting to save his house during Home Alone or something like that. But literally, that's all I had, man. That's all I had in my head, right?
Right.
I said, what I'm gonna do is that like I'm gonna jump it. I'm gonna jump this thing. I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find a way to pull it out, and I'm gonna sneak attack it. I'm gonna steal it, right? We used to call it stealing. Right? I'm gonna steal on this guy, man. I'm basically a sucker punch, right? I'm gonna steal on this guy, right? And I'm gonna, go at it. And I said, if anything goes wrong, I got this Bible. I got this Bible next to me, right? So I came to the conclusion that I wasn't able to physically move if it locked me down, but maybe if in my mind, if I fought it with my mind, I could, have some success with it, right? So a typhoon came up, right? Perfect. Perfect time. I wasn't even on watch. I was right in the middle of a 96, man. My roommate was out of town. He was deployed or something like that in that room all by myself. So I went back. And again, to show you my honesty here, I don't know why I felt the need, but I got fully dressed, right? I got fully dressed, man. I put on clothes. I even put on shoes. I was wearing shoes, right? And so I said, okay, I got fully dressed, man. I laid down in the bed, right? And the typhoon was raging out there. I closed all the windows, right? All the big curtains, right? I closed all these big curtains, right? So it was fairly dark, but there was cracks of lights coming in. It wasn't pitch black in there. And I laid down and I just knew that it was going to show up, right? I just knew it. So I was like, all right, man. I just laid down. Laid down. I was in the bed, was laying down there in the bed, right? And it did not disappoint. It showed up. But this time when it showed up, like I said, the last time I saw it, it had chased me down the hallway, right? And the time before that, man, it had like it was in there with a whole bunch of other ones or whatever. Or no, it was in there with it has hands on my chest, right? So I was expecting something, right? It was standing this time on the edge of my bed, if my memory recalls, right? It was standing there. And my first instinct was I had sleep paralysis again, man. My first instinct was, to try to get up, man. But again, I was locked down. And then something happened in my head, man. I was just like, in your mind, visualize, I didn't say visualize, it's like in your mind, put it through the wall, is literally what I said, right? So in my mind, I just envisioned, not envisioned, but like in my mind, I just shoved it as hard as I could. And when I thought that in my head, this thing flew across the room, banged into that refrigerator over there by the wall. And it let out a scream, like to this day, I can still it let out like a banshee wail, right? It screamed at me so freaking hard, right? That like, again, man, just put like a little chill down my shoulder, right? But I don't have any fear of it now. Like I just still like that memory just came in, right? It screamed at me so hard. I instantly blinked. My sleep paralysis was over. And when I tell you I shot up like stepping on a rake in a yard, bam, I was up in my bed as hard as I could, man. Boom, I flung up, right? I was standing there with my shoes on, and before I knew it, man, my instincts was run. That was the first thing in my head, man. Just get out of the room, man. I got out of the room. I went out there for a second, man, and I just literally went to my car, got in my car, and I drove to Atsugi Air Force Base, man, which was like 35 minutes away. Again, this is funny part of the story. They had a Popeyes chicken over there, man. I went into the Popeyes chicken, bro. I ordered a Dr. Pepper. I ordered a Dr. Pepper. I went over there and I sat down in the back of that Dr. Pepper right in the middle of the time. I wasn't supposed to leave the base. I did it anyways, man. And I went and I sat down in a booth on Atsugi Air Force Base and I drank a Dr. Pepper until my heart stopped calming down. And then I realized that, like, yo, man, like, that worked. And so something happened on me, right? But again, here's where the anticlimactic part of it happens, man. I never saw it again. It never showed back up. It never came. I had like 8 more months left on my tour, right? But this time I was like, "Yo, come on, man, bring it, bring it." It never came back up. It never happened again, right? And I never told the other guys what I did. I never told my girlfriend what I had done. I never told the other boys. We just stopped talking about it, right? And so, yeah, man, it this and again to like I call it the credits, the scene after the credits in a movie, right? After after my 3 years was up, I got orders to I was told I had to do what they call isolated duty in the Navy, right? And they gave me 2 choices. You had to go to Adak, Alaska or Diego Garcia, right? And my boys are like, "Yo, man, don't go to Alaska, bro. You won't see the sun for 6 months." And again, I had this thing about, the dark, right? And I was like, "Well, then, you know what? I'll just go to" we called it DG. No one in the Navy calls it Diego Garcia, man. They call it DG, right? So I'll just go to DG, right, for a year, right? And, like, at least I can snorkel and get a tan or whatever. So I went to Diego Garcia, man. I landed on Diego Garcia, and I was again I went through the whole process, man. I got checked into my room. Diego Garcia is a beautiful place to be. It's not an island actually. It's the rim of an extinct volcano. It's an atoll in the middle of the Indian Ocean. If you're not going there, you would never go there. You would never bump into it. But the weather is always, 90, 97, something like that. I was in my room. I was there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I was settled in because at this time, man, I had some rank on me. I didn't have to do any trash duty. I went right to the watch. I was stationed at, and again, for people who want to question my credibility, I was stationed at Naval Security Group Detachment, Diego Garcia, right? There's a cryptology base down there, right? I was right there. I was in Barracks 14. If you would come up the stairs from, past Barracks 13, past Donkey Burger, if anybody's ever been to Diego Garcia and you want to know if they're telling you the truth, they'll know about Donkey Burger. It's a little burger shack right before the barracks there. And I was come up the steps. These barracks were all, I call them murder barracks because the doors face the air, open air. Camisea's barracks was inside a building. Just the little hotels. I was in there. I was laying in my bed. My roommate was on watch. He was a great guy. I was on the bottom rack. It was hot as could be. The floors there, I had carpet in Camisea, but in Diego, we just had, tile floors. I was laying there in a pair of basketball shorts, and that was it. And I woke up. It was, 11 o'clock in the morning. I had woke up. I looked to my left. Standing there next to me, next to the bed, was a only about 7 feet. I'm 6 feet tall, right? So it wasn't something that was toweringly impressive over me. But there was this 7 foot tall, maybe 6'5", 7 foot tall, gray, skinny alien thing that looked like, if you look at the thumbnail on my YouTube, I worked hard with ChatGPT to describe what it was. I couldn't get the head exactly right because the head did one of these had like a little thing to it, right? Like it kind of came down, right? Like it had like, how if you touch our head, you feel like the frontal lobes, right? Like it had like a little thing, right? And it was standing there. I didn't have sleep paralysis. I couldn't move my body, but I could move my head. And when I leaned over to my left to look at it, it was standing there. I felt no fear. And we had a form. I don't have the vocabulary to describe it. I just call it a form of nonverbal communication. It put something in my head and it said, I can get you anytime I want. That's what it said to me, right? Lily was in there. I blinked for a second and it was gone. And this is exactly what happened. I sat up in my bed. I sat up in my bed. I kind of just rolled my feet off to the side. I sat up. I remember putting my feet on the floor, and I could feel how cold the floor was because the air conditioner was going. And I laughed. I said to myself, I just got freaking murked by by an effing alien. And that's what I said, man. And that's the thing. And I didn't tell anybody about that part until I released my video. Literally a year and a half ago. I told no one else about that part, right? About it. But then never seen it again. Never happened again. Other weird things happened to me along the way, but there was never a shadow man infestation again. I never saw a gray again. And again, people look at me like expecting some type of like, dun dun dun. I don't think I was ever taken to a spaceship. I don't none of that. I don't have any of these things, man, that like other people talk about, right? But I have had some other, very strange things happen. But yeah, boys, that was it, man. That's my story right there, man. That's what happened. And until I met Tyler, I had no idea. I just thought I thought they were demons. I just thought they were I didn't know what they were, man. Until I heard your story, you know what I'm saying? And that's what made me
Right.
reach out to you. So yeah. So
Yeah, well, thank you for that incredible story. It was the easiest interview we've ever had to do.
right.
But it was fantastic. I mean, I was captivated the whole time, and I know it was a dark
Mm.
like, the same thing happens when I tell my story. People are all into it, right? But, you're reliving it, and it's, like, not that pleasant to retell the story, so I appreciate you, doing that. And then from the outside, it is like, "Oh, wow, all this, cool stuff is happening," but, when you're living it, it's quite literally terrifying,
Yeah, it's a
and there's no
nightmare.
words to describe the fear, unless you've experienced it yourself, then I can relate. I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about. But, Aaron, what did you think of that? I mean, it's been,
That was
that's a wild
fascinating.
story.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of your experiences and your stories
Right.
just on a military base instead of at your house.
Yeah.
But I've heard like I've been researching this stuff, watching people's testimonies like yourself, for reading books, you name it, for since 2012 now, and I can tell when someone's being authentic and when someone's telling like you're just telling your experiences like
Right.
you experience it. Like I can tell when someone's bullshitting or just trying to like repeat other things they heard and then pass it off as their own. People do that sometimes. But then, so people like yourself are authentic and you're like, "Hey, this is just my experiences. I'm not saying this to like be, popular or have like a wowing story or whatever or make money or anything, right?
Yeah.
You're just like hey, I don't even want to I didn't want to have these experiences.
Yeah. No.
I had
Thank you.
them and I have to tell them. I can't just keep silent. And I can tell. So thank you for sharing your stories and experiences with the world. And it's important because I think a lot more people have these kind of experiences that then are willing to speak about them. But that's changing more and more, as people like yourself and Tyler and others tell their stories. That gives people like, oh my God, the other people had these. I'm not the only one, or it's okay for me to talk about this now,
Right.
and then it'll start being more accepted, and we can start, coming together and being like, what is this? How do we learn from this? What's the nature of reality? What's going on here? Rather than everyone
Oh,
just keeping quiet and trying to stay in the matrix
Right.
yeah. That's
and
a
not
great
rock
point
the
right there.
boat, right?
Yeah. I've told like I said, man, this isn't a story. Like my family knew about this story. My aunt hates the story. I'm like, I told so at the time when this was going on, man, I wasn't that dude. It's like, yo, man, like I was telling this story, right? And again, man, thank you for pointing that out right there. When I put this story out, I came to myself. When I put it out on my YouTube channel, I waited a year before I put it out. If anybody, I challenge anybody to challenge any of my credibility, man, and to where I was at, what I did. Like I said, man, I didn't really. If anything, man, I probably have forgotten to tell a few little things that were along the way down there, right? But like, but that is exactly like. And again,
Mm.
people. One thing that I think frustrates people when I tell them my story is they're like, well, what was it? And when I tell them like, man, I got no idea. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, bro, like I don't know what that
Yeah,
was.
like they expect you to know exactly what it
Right.
was just because
Right.
you
Right.
had the experience. So
Yeah,
no
I'm like,
more
I don't
telling.
know.
Well,
They're
I
like, "What
think
do you mean?" Yeah,
I
Right.
think the key takeaway is there is a major lesson in this for you.
yeah,
You learn like once you let go of fear, once you
yeah,
lost the fear of it, it lost
mhm,
control over you.
yeah,
Yeah.
So and like you it's like overcoming that and then like your fear almost attracts it, right?
yeah,
And then once it learned that you
Yeah.
had some sort of power that you could do something, it
That's
probably was scared of you.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. Key point there. That I'm so glad, and that's the thing I see over and over and over again with people when they wake up to, wait a second, I'm more powerful than this thing.
yeah,
It's only taking advantage of me because I'm still in an ignorant state of not realizing that, and it thinks it can keep taking advantage of that and feeding off of your energy, right? But the second you change your energy, or the second you will, wait a second, I'm more powerful than this thing.
yeah,
And like exactly what you did. All you did was use your mind
yeah,
to use that power. And it was like, oh, it woke up to its power. And you said it stopped after that because it's
yeah,
like, I can't
never
mess with
stopped
this
me.
guy anymore. He's awake now.
Yeah, and it's crazy too because until, when I started my channel and going down, my channel's only a year and a half old, and then going down and talking to guys like you, I never
Mhm.
if you would have told me at the time that it was basically farming loosh off what's that word, loosh? What's the
Whoosh,
word?
Yeah.
yeah.
If it was
Loosh.
I would've said, "What?" I would've looked at you, I would've gave you the bombastic side eye, like, "What are you talking about?" Right? Like,
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
"No." But now, knowing what I know now and looking back, I was like, "Yo, that's like 100% what was like, yo, that's why, like, and it was getting fat, boy, I'll tell you what, man, because I was scared to death, man. This thing had
Yeah.
my heart was pounding, right?
And understandably, I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
I would have been to anyone
Right.
yeah.
Right.
would have
Yeah,
been, but
yeah, the crazy thing
yeah,
too, man, is
yeah.
is when not to interrupt you on there, with you said something that triggered that in my mind on there, is that how when you realize, man, that, like, you're stronger than it probably
Mhm.
it fears you now, right?
Yeah.
I never thought about that until literally you just said that, right? I just thought like, okay, man, like, this thing just doesn't want, I just put enough distance between me. I never dawned on me that maybe it doesn't want to come in and get another, mind beating or nothing like that. Well, I'm gonna run with that, bro.
Right. No, it's
Seriously,
yeah.
seriously, because I think the entities like that are these like lower beings that they're like parasites, is what
Yeah,
I've learned. That they have to feed off of, the reason they feed off of your fear and your loose energy is because they have to survive, because they're disconnected from source, from God,
yeah,
whereas we are connected. So what they do is they try to trick you into thinking they're more powerful and scary than you, and then it creates that fear energy that they have to feed off of to survive. It's like their food source because they
yeah,
are disconnected. And the second you stop feeding it, you're no longer a food source. And especially the second you wake up to realizing you're a million times more powerful than this
yeah,
parasite. Like, and what you did, even if it was just a small amount where you had the thought, like, wait a second, let me try this,
yeah,
that was enough. And then it was like, I can't, nope,
Right.
yeah,
gotta stay away from this guy now because
yeah,
it
And
knows it's game over, right?
heck yeah,
and
It's all good.
I think ultimately too, from a higher perspective, this was preparing you for
Mhm.
doing this podcast, telling the story, interviewing other people, and ultimately impacting
Yeah,
disclosure and the
yeah,
awakening.
100%.
And like, had you not gone through that, you wouldn't have been prepared to do what you do now. And from a higher perspective, like your higher self, God, or somebody already knew you were going this direction, right? So,
yeah,
and like the darkness is always serving the light, and that's a perfect example of it. And then now you're taking advantage of that lesson, and now you're teaching other people. And you have a successful podcast, which everybody should go subscribe to,
thank you.
Ancient Enigma Files on YouTube and wherever else. I'll let you plug all that stuff whenever you want. But I think there's beautiful takeaways. There is a silver lining in all this. And I think the alien at Diego Garcia, which I don't know if you're familiar with the secret space program, but a lot of the guys who have testimonies from there claim to be taken to Diego Garcia before they're taken off planet or wherever.
Mhm,
Um, I don't think it's a coincidence you saw a gray alien there, but I also think that was just a scare tactic.
yeah,
I don't
Mhm.
think that gray had any power over you, but he wanted to at least
Want you to think that.
think that he did.
Exactly.
But I think maybe your frequency, you understood who you were at that point, so it
mm.
couldn't affect you. At least to your knowledge, maybe you get memories back one day. Who knows? But
We're good. I'm good where I'm at, man.
right, right,
Yeah.
But
Well
yeah,
well,
so
to me, oh,
go
real
ahead.
quick, I just wanna say, what I've seen this with a lot of entities before, where they know your beliefs create your reality, or what you believe gives, like, permission, so to speak. So like if they can get you to believe something, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So that gray saying to you, hey, I can get you whenever I want. If you would have fully bought into that with like that fear energy around it, be like, oh my God, no, you can get me whenever I want, and you're constantly dwelling on that, then he probably could, because now you're allowing him to, and then he's also feeding off of your energy as well. So
Right.
I think a lot of entities, they play these tricks where they're like, let's see if I can implant this belief in this person. And if they buy into it, boom, they got you hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, real quick, man, I'm gonna add something there. Like you guys were talking about, like people have came to me. So when I went to when I was at Diego Garcia, man, DG, I didn't think it was anything special. Again, because that was my norm, that was my everyday, right? And when you're into it, man, you don't really think about it. But I've had conversations with people. And again, to give some, I think you've had a guest recently on your show. I've begun to watch your podcast. I don't know if it was the last one or whatever. A guy that was talking about a Marine, I think, was talking
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
on Diego Garcia. Before people dunk on Diego Garcia, look, I'll tell you, I'm going to give some ammunition for you guys to use as well. Like I showed these guys before, man. Like here's like a picture of the island, right? I don't know if you can see it or not. If I'm doing a good job on it, can you see it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Right there.
So Diego Garcia, man, is a remote place, but I'll tell you, there's an anomaly about Diego Garcia, and I'm going to give you some stats on it to anybody that's watching this, if you ever question the weirdness that goes on. Diego Garcia again is not an island; it's an atoll. It's the rim of an extinct volcano. At its widest point, Diego Garcia is only 3 miles wide, but it's about 32 miles long, and it has the world's third longest runway. Used to be the tertiary landing site for the space shuttle. We used to joke, if you can't land a plane on Diego Garcia, then you suck, right? Because that runway, man, just goes and goes and goes. It's not owned by the United States America. It's a buyout. It's a British Indian Ocean territory. And so you have Brits stationed there, right? British Royal Marines are stationed there. You have a Marine Security Detachment stationed there. You have spooks stationed there. And you have every now and then you'll have an air det roll in. But there's also no cars. There's service vehicles that the people on duty can use, but so any other way around there, man, you have to ride these bicycles, right? And you can get a BUI. You can get a biking under the influence, man. These British cops will pull you over drunk on a bike and give it to you. But the main population of the island is condensed into, I'll say, the living area, right? Is in barracks 13, 14, 15, 16, right? And the gym is there. You have Donkey Burger there. You have a couple softball fields there. When I was there was this massive liquor store. You had like a little club, like the A Club. And you had this place called the Brit Club where the Brits would party, and you would go up there. It was kind of on the beach. And then a little bit farther, it has a very large, about 2,000 Filipinos there, right? And they have their own little place called the Expat Club, which is up the road a little bit. Inside the volcano are just massive merchant marine ships loaded to the brim with ammunition and stuff. Like we keep so much stockpiled there, right? But here's the thing that makes Diego Garcia weird. I did a year there and I was in barracks 14. I think my room literally was 201. I think that was the room I was in. There were guys in barracks 15 and 16 I never met. Never met. You would see people walking around going to the chow hall. We used to have to catch the bus to the site, to Seasite. I was at station at Seasite, and we would come back, right? In between barracks 13 and 14 was this big giant pavilion that we all used to go out there and just, hang out, right? But on Diego Garcia, scattered throughout the island, are these, for lack of better word, man, these World War II bunkers. They're somewhat buried into the ground, right? And you can see them, right? But you don't know what's in there, right? And you would never just go there, because it would be, again, if you're down, we used to call it downtown DG. If you're downtown DG to get to Seaside, it's a 5-mile bus ride. And if you want to ride your bicycle 20 miles, around the island or whatever, Diego Garcia is just an old coconut plantation, is all it is, right? And it has feral cats. These cats are regressing. They look like little mini pumas, right? They're freaking crazy. They'll take your eye out if you try to pet them, right?
Hmm.
And they have donkeys. There's wild donkeys walking around there. That's where the term donkey burger came from. But I'll tell you this right now, I only went to the airport 2 times. The day I landed, and I did 364 days there, and the day I flew out. Unless you're going to the airstrip, you would never go there. Stuff goes down on Diego Garcia, man, that you would have no idea what's going on. And so when people say, "Oh, that's impossible," like I don't know about any. I can't speak to any other programs, right? I can't speak to anything, right? I can't speak to anything, like that. I never witnessed it. I never saw anything. But if you wanted a place to do it, that would be the place to do it. You can't get there unless it's by a plane. You can't get there. It's a 12-hour. If you get hurt, people have died in airplanes because they fell off the second story of the barracks. Because it's a 12-hour flight to the nearest hospital, which is in Singapore, right? To get there, right? People have literally died on that island because they had to get medevaced out, right? And so that's why when I see people do 2 things I don't really, go one way or the other. One of it is when they dismiss it, like, "That's impossible, it never happened." No, it would be the place to do it, right? If there's any black sites, 100% there's black sites there, 100%. And 100% I wouldn't know one was going on because it would be in, bunker 44 on the other end of the island, right? And I would just never go there. It would literally be north from the airport, right? And the airport's 20 miles away from my barracks, and I'm on a bicycle. So unless I was going there, and they wouldn't let me go there, right? I couldn't get there, right? But also people who claim to go there and you ain't been there, right? If you people say, "Oh, I was on, Diego Garcia," and the person like, "Okay, well, when?" Well, we don't say when. Not so much as when. It'd be like, "Yo, what did you do there?" "Oh, I did X, Y, and Z." If they don't know about Donkey Burger, then no, that's a little litmus test there, man. If you ever want to talk to somebody that's ever been on DG, man, if they don't know about Donkey Burger, that's never been there. But I can give you, in closing, a classic example of. I was walking home from the softball fields one night, right? Just walking home from the softball fields. And a Navy SEAL just stepped out of the jungle, and he scared the what out of me, right? And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, the scabby, we call it the scabby. That's another thing too. Everybody on DG calls the jungle the scabby, right? And if you've never been in the jungle at night, you can't see your hand in front of your face. It's that dark, right?
Yeah.
He just stepped out of the jungle, and he's scared. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. He's like, "Hey, man, would you guys be interested in playing us in softball?" That's how weird that conversation was, right? That's just that's life in the military. A Navy SEAL was just watching us in the jungle play softball, and his team was there, and they wanted to play. "Yeah, man, sure, man, we'll play you guys, no problem, man. We'll have a game." But that's the that's the word, man. Like the surrealness of it, man. 1 minute you're doing this high speed stuff, and literally the next minute you're getting cheese fries at Donkey Burger playing softball against SEAL Team 3. That's just how it is, bro. It's just,
Yeah.
I can't explain it, man. It's just that it's not always this, Jason Bourne, dun dun. I use that a lot. It's not all this, Black Hawk helicopter stuff going on, man. That's just the realness of it. So people that have been on Diego Garcia, and I think that people, you know, should give them some of the benefit of the doubt, man, because absolutely that's where you would. Again, I can't testify to it. I never openly witnessed it. I know the programs that I was read into, and it had nothing to do with that. Right? It was real world application stuff, man. And but if you wanted a place to do it where you would never get caught and never ever, ever get there, never. No CNN reporters ever getting on Diego Garcia. Period. It's not happening, right? It's not happening, right? That would be
Yeah.
the place to be at, man. So
Right.
Yeah, it's very isolated.
Yeah.
And in a way where, they can get away with a lot more there than
Yeah.
they can a lot of other places.
Right. And
Uh,
there's islands also probably that we don't even know about where things are
Right.
happening too. I always think about that. I'm like, there could be an island out there that isn't like conveniently leave off a map,
Oh yeah.
and we just would never know. No one's gonna bump into it. No one's gonna know. So
and you really want to go a deeper layer of the rabbit hole here. I do think there are very old ET bases all over the planet, and I wouldn't doubt if there was one there already, and that's why that location was chosen.
Oh, here.
Also, I'm sure there's multiple reasons
No,
why.
no. I could
They don't
give
choose locations just willy nilly, like, oh, let's just go to that random island and build a base and do all this stuff. It's like,
Right.
I think there's a lot of deeper layer stuff like that. Probably
knowing what I know now, you're 100%. Knowing what I know now, 100% correct. There's a dumb on Diego Garcia. 100% correct.
Mhm.
It's probably connected to the mainland. They probably can get there by a train, simply because we used to always look out into the harbor, right?
Mhm.
And there's these. I'm talking about these. Just imagine like a Carnival Cruise Line ship, just loaded with boxes. And we used to be like, "Yo, what is on these boxes?" And so the merchant marine guys, they would come ashore, man. They would be in our gym, man. They'd be these civilians, right? They'd just be in there lifting weights, right? And we would talk to them, right? And they were like, "Ah, we don't know, man. We just steamed in from Singapore. We just steamed in from Thailand." Well, obviously they would come in, right? But they were these massive ships, right? And another thing too about the strangeness that would go on in freaking with the whole dumb things or whatever that goes on in Diego Garcia. If you know anything about the phenomenon of these, UAPs, whatever they're calling today, man, they're always around. They're always around volcanoes, man. They're always around there.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
100%, there's probably something carved inside that that extinct volcano in there, and you would never look for it or find it. You wouldn't even know there, right? So,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for coming on and sharing
yeah, no worries, bro.
everything with us,
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
And please let the audience know how they can follow you, about your podcast, and all that stuff.
Sure. So, my name is Joseph, man. I host a show on YouTube on the channel The Ancient Enigma Files. I host a show on Thursdays called Enigma Cast, where I dig into things, just literally what we were talking about here. I talk about, cryptids, UFOs, this topic. I don't even know what topic this would be under anymore. The shadow people will fall under. I bring people on to talk about their stories. I go over some of the stories I've experienced. My channel, if you look over the artwork that I have here, people have submitted to me and came in. I'm a firm believer now, looking back over my life, that we 100% live in a world that we have no idea what this world truly is about. And they want you to think that you just live and die and you work, but there's strangeness and things in this world is much, much more freaking close to a Lord of the Rings type realm we live in than it is freaking just a mundane world. But that's what I talk about it. So you can go to any one of my channels, man. Again, it's at the Ancient Enigma Files on Instagram. I think I'm Professor Augustus. That's my snarky handle on like TikTok. My link trees and all my bios, man. Come over there and join us and have a good time. And again, I'm almost impossible to offend, and anything I talk about, especially my own story, I put it. I made the decision when I laid it out there that to take the pound test, and no one has been able to, catch me yet. I was where I said I was. I didn't elaborate. That's what happened, and I didn't. And don't ask me to tell you what I think it is, because I thought it was one thing and told Tyler his story. And now I'm thinking it could be something completely different. So that's what it is, boys. But thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, of course. This was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I can't wait for people to see this. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you guys all for tuning in. We can't do this without you. We love you. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night.
Go.
It's just literally the way of the heart, and that's the way of the future. So
They are the ones that guard this planet. They open portals, they close portals, and they kind of protect us as a whole.
We wake up and we're like, holy shit, I've been lied to.
And I'm going to explain how this works and why they want our souls so badly.
When I'm talking about what is possible, I mean as far as the secret space program.
It's like this is the future, and it is a part of this golden age we're moving into. There's no hiding. You can't hide this, So
your quantum body, bringing more back online, like as in reloading past lives, soul fragments coming back, dismantling implants.
It might be different star languages that might come through. And we're talking a lot about dimensional beings, and they're very highly telepathic. So it's like looking around. It doesn't see us. It can't see us. I can see it, but it can't see us. It can hear us, and it knows something's going around.
But humanity does have a bright future, and I'm going to prove it to you beyond a shadow of a doubt.
The minute I came into their energy, I was like, this isn't a real human. Their eyes were different color. And so I do believe it was a clone.
This thing's going for sometimes years at a time on these missions. Is this thing going to other planets? And I knew that they wouldn't be able to respond, but I wanted to see their reaction because that was going to tell me. And it was good because she froze up and she looked at the back of the room to her superior military guy. And then she looked back at me and she's like, we can't talk about that.
And I can hear
my higher self come in, and it's definitely my higher self, go, don't say a word, don't say a word, do not let them know who you are. And I began to leave my body at that point.
And it is biblical. I'm not a biblical person. I've never read the Bible. My family wasn't really religious, so it's just really interesting as I've been starting to get these updates, even through the Alliance, I'm discovering it is very much biblical.
When I got over there, a blue light come down right over me, and boom, I was on a ship. And I was looking at 6 people, 3 men, 3 women, and every one of them I looked at didn't seem very interested at all that I was there.